Huge news for Baltimore. Maryland State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby announced today that the death of Freddie Gray has been found to have been a homicide, and the 6 officers involved in his arrest and subsequent death will be charged with up to and including murder, in fact. We have some segments of her press conference where she announces those charges and the rationale behind them. Let's watch.
The findings of our comprehensive, thorough, and independent investigation, coupled with the medical examiner's determination that Mr. Gray's death was a homicide, which we received today, has led us to believe that we have probable cause to file criminal charges.
And she goes on to say that the arrest of Freddie Gray was unlawful. Let's watch her explanation there.
Having come in contact with the pursuing officers, Mr. Gray surrendered to Officers Miller and Nero in the vicinity of the 1700 block of Pressbury Street. Officers Miller and Nero then placed Mr. Gray in a seated position and subsequently found a knife clipped to the inside of his pants pocket. The blade of the knife was folded into the handle. The knife was not a switchblade and is lawful under Maryland law. Lieutenant Rice, Officer Miller, and Officer Nero failed to establish probable cause for Mr. Gray's arrest as no crime had been committed by Mr. Gray. Accordingly, Lieutenant Rice, Officer Miller, and Officer Nero illegally arrested Mr. Gray. Lieutenant Rice, Officer Nero, and Officer Miller loaded Mr. Gray into the wagon, and at no point was he secured by a seatbelt while in the wagon, contrary to a BPD general order.
Obviously, very, very significant there, laying out that it was an unlawful arrest, pointing out yet again that he was not actually restrained when he was put into the vehicle. You'll see a quick breakdown of here where we want to emphasize the number of charges. I mean, you see there in the first case there is second degree depraved heart murder, which is the most significant charge there.
That guy was the Cesar Goodson Jr. was the driver, was the van driver.
The driver of the van. But you see a great number of charges there, although of course differentiating between different police officers. And so many happy around Baltimore. They feel like this is at least the first step towards some kind of justice in the death of Freddie Gray. What do you guys think?
I think that it might be a historic moment. I think that Representative Elijah Cummings and others who have been talking about this is the new civil rights movement of our generation. I think they're right. I think they're onto something. I think people are tired of black people around the country, and look, honestly, poor, powerless people around the country constantly being beat down, shot, manhandled, and this is and now we've had case after case. We're not even going to trial. We're not even pursuing justice. No, I mean Eric Garner gets choked to death, right? And they never go after the cops who did it. Instead, they go after the guys who taped it, right? And so finally, I felt like it was a cool breeze that swept through the country, where the powerless felt like, oh my God, I can't believe a person in front of a camera that has a podium, someone who's powerful came out and said, yes, we will actually pursue justice. Yeah. That's why I think you had that spontaneous, like, yes.
And she actually used those exact words, that those who seek justice, that essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but today this is the beginning of an attempt to seek justice. Look, there's a great chance that these guys, because there are no video cameras except for that first little snippet of video where there is no obvious crime being committed by police officers, all happened inside a van. Depending if these guys don't turn on each other, I mean, we all know that it's going to end with the preponderance of belief that people have that police officers get the benefit of the doubt. A conviction in this case is going to be extremely hard. But one of the criticisms that's about to be leveled at Marilyn Mosby is that she overcharged. And one of the benefits to overcharging is then being able to plea to some things, which, so I would be surprised if these ended with a second-degree murder conviction. But this is what a responsible prosecutor does. This is the opposite of Robert McCullough.
Let's also note that we don't get the Fox News of the world complaining about overcharging from prosecutors in any other case but a case of cops. Right? When's the last time you saw conservatives going, I can't believe prosecutors overcharge those defendants? Yeah. Right? right? No, it doesn't happen. And in fact, they will say in those instances, no, you overcharged, just like Ben said, so you can get a plea deal. And you can get one of them turn on the others
possibly.
because they might face an incredibly long time. These are standard practices that prosecutors do. It's just that when they do it on the powerless, no one minds. When they do it on the powerful, all of a sudden people go, whoa, wait, is that overcharging?
Bias.
We're concerned that all of a sudden the justice system might be too tough.
Yeah.
And I'm reading from the New York Times today, the Times pointing out correctly that in her entire press briefing, Marilyn Mosby, I'm terrified I'm going to call her Marilyn Manson.
Okay, well.
So, just listen, keep your
Been
ears
okay
peeled.
so far.
So that she never used the term rough ride. Again, she
Yeah.
didn't lay out her entire case. And the New York Times points out that she never said rough ride, but she did say, Mr. Gray suffered a severe and critical neck injury as a result of being handcuffed, shackled by his feet, and unrestrained inside the BPD wagon.
Yeah.
So what will come down, I imagine, to what will be critical for a jury, one of the things that might be critical, let me say this because I don't know exactly how this case is going to go, is an argument over whether that was a standard practice, that although a memo had come out saying not to do it, not all officers had read the memo, or was there intent, and did they give him intentionally one of these rough rides, or did he just suffer the consequences of an unintentional rough ride?
Yeah.
But interesting that she didn't use the phrase, but clearly did say that being unrestrained in the van led to his neck injury.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's following from the medical examiner's information that was released just yesterday. And so obviously, I mean, we're already sort of starting mentally to get into an analysis of what the chances are of some of these charges at least sticking. But at least for today, this is certainly good information for many of the residents of Baltimore and others who've come to Baltimore to protest about this particular issue and these similar issues from other cases in the recent past around the country. We have two quotes that I want to read from some Baltimore residents. One says, "The horns are sounding for hope and change in our community." And the next man said, "I just heard the comment on the bus that we're happy there won't be no more fires or looting. The decision to even take the officers to court, that's a relief off the street people, off the people in the projects, the ones who feel like we're victims."
Only TV does. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's so good.
What's that?
Baltimore man. Like that's just, I think it's a way of talking in television that does not exist anywhere outside of Baltimore resident. Baltimore man said this. Like, what do you mean Baltimore man?
He is Baltimore.
No, he's Baltimore man.
Exactly.
That actually sounds kind of bad.
Literally the worst
Well,
superhero.
we had Jesus Man last week, I think it was, on the show.
Baltimore man.
Well, Baltimore man might be getting justice today, so not such a bad superhero after all.
Starting a little bit of a
Perhaps
relationship with
responsible.
Phoenix Girl, I hear.
Now, we also have a message from that same press conference from the prosecutor talking specifically to the youth in Baltimore.
To the governor of this great state of Maryland, thank you for expediting the autopsy report, which enabled us to do our job. Last but certainly not least, to the youth of this city, I will seek justice on your behalf. This is a moment. This is your moment. Let's ensure that we have peaceful and productive rallies that will develop structural and systemic changes for generations to come. You're at the forefront of this cause, and as young people, our time is now.
That's right! Yeah!
So that is probably going to be cited, and very soon we'll begin talking about some of the attacks being launched against her already immediately after the announcement. But it's that sort of message that she says so that the people protesting, perhaps in hopes that they will, like some of the more radical elements will calm down slightly, that she understands what they're trying to accomplish. But that will be used, that will be ammunition that will be fired against her very soon on Fox News.
Yeah, that was a very irresponsible call for peaceful rallies, I thought.
Exactly. And to care about justice and the future of your community.
What kind of prosecutor cares about justice and wants peaceful rallies?
Yeah.
Who does she think she is?
Yeah.
I'm sure that Fox News is going to jump in here and say, it's already being said in living rooms across the country, oh, of course she's on their side, right? So now, of course, when communities in places like Ferguson are outraged that prosecutors like McCollum don't prosecute officers, right? And they say, well, look, he's on the side of the cops, right? Because they work together, let alone other inferences, et cetera. The Fox News people get outraged. No!
It's not racial.
This is our justice system. And these people don't trust our justice system. They went, and it turns out there's no evidence. And you've got to trust in the system and the people who run it.
But that was her.
unless they're black, in which case we have to question why they might have done this.
Yeah.